Aisha's curse is a scary urban legend from Malaysia about a young girl who is horribly murdered by 4 evil men. According to legend, she will take revenge on anyone who looks at her photograph. Aisha was a shy girl who lived in Malaysia. She was born in a small village, but in 1984 she moved to Kuala Lumpur, the capital of Malaysia. Aisha had a rare disease, photophobia. Her eyes were extremely sensitive to bright light, which gave her terrible headaches. For this reason, she always wore dark glasses and did not allow anyone to take pictures of her. The camera flashes gave her terrible, prolonged headaches. One day, at the factory where Aisha worked, they organized a New Year's corporate party. Everyone was having fun and Aisha took off her glasses. Someone brought a camera and decided to take a picture. As soon as the flash broke out, Aisha doubled over in pain and fell to the ground. The headache completely captured her and foam came out of her mouth. The poor girl writhed in pain on the ground until an ambulance arrived and took her to the hospital. Aisha spent 3 days in the hospital, lying in a darkened room. The man who photographed her came to her hospital and apologized for his carelessness. After that, Aisha was forced to leave her job. The doctor gave her medication and told her that she needed a long break to rest. She sat at home during the day and only went out to the store at night to buy herself food. The owner of the house in which Aisha rented an apartment, imbued with the girl's misfortune and allowed her to live in the apartment for free until she fully recovered and could return home. A month later, Aisha regained her strength and it was time to return to her native village. That evening, when it got dark, Aisha left the house and went to the bus station. On the way, a car suddenly stopped near her. 4 men got out of the car and pushed Aisha inside. They took her to an abandoned house on the outskirts of the city and tied her to a chair. Then one of the men took out a knife and cut her clothes. Aisha cried and begged for mercy, but the men just laughed at her. They started beating her and terribly mocking her. One of the men took out his camera to take some photos. Aisha asked him not to take pictures and tried to explain that she had a rare disease. The man simply ignored her requests and started taking pictures. As soon as the blinding flash hit her eyes, Aisha was pierced by an unbearable headache. Aisha screamed with all her might, shaking her head from side to side, but the men continued to beat her, filming frame after frame. Every time the flash went off, she felt like her head was about to explode. Blood flowed from her nose, ears and eyes. After 4 hours of continuous abuse, Aisha was still alive, in terrible pain. She could hardly move. The men carried her back to the car and threw her into the trunk. They brought her to the bridge and were going to throw her into the river to drown. But before they threw her off the bridge into the river, Aisha managed to shout, "Anyone who looks at my photo without asking will be punished by me. I will appear to you in a dream and you will experience the same pain that I experienced. I swear that I will. Let me die, but woe to those who see my photo." The next morning, the men went to a photo studio to get photographs. They gave the man behind the counter some money and warned him to keep quiet about what he would see in the photographs. When the men saw the pictures of Aisha, beaten and depressed, they began to squeal with laughter. Suddenly the car in which they were traveling swerved and crashed into a tree. One of the tree branches went through the windshield and pierced the driver's head, killing him instantly. Another man was taken to the hospital, but he died that evening from severe internal bleeding. A third man survived the crash. He had only minor injuries. Bandaging his wounds, the doctors allowed him to go home. On the way home, the man stumbled and fell into an open manhole. He lay at the bottom of the sewer with a broken leg, unable to get up. That night, it rained heavily, the water level in the sewer rose and the man drowned. The fourth man did not have a single scratch and immediately went home. That night, as he lay in bed, he dreamed that Aisha came to him and started hitting him on the head with a stick. When he woke up, he had a terrible headache. The pain became so intense that he could no longer endure it. He felt that he was losing his mind and began to prick himself in the head with a fork. He began to regret what he had done because he felt Aisha's curse on him. He went to the nearest police station and turned himself in, telling them everything he and his friends had done to Aisha that fateful night. He took all the photos to the police. The man was arrested and thrown into a cell, while the police began searching for Aisha's body. The man eventually died in prison. He committed suicide. He beat his head against the wall until he broke his skull. He could no longer endure the unbearable headaches. 2 days later, Aisha's bloated corpse was found in the river. She was taken to the morgue, where they identified her by fingerprints and performed an autopsy. The doctor who performed the autopsy took a picture of Aisha's corpse for filing. As the camera flash faded, he almost lost his speech when he saw Aisha's eyelids suddenly close. Shortly thereafter, the doctor was found dead. He died due to an overdose of painkillers. Anyone who has looked at pictures of Aisha has said that he is haunted by nightmares and severe headaches. Shortly thereafter, they were all found dead. In the end, the police destroyed most of the photos. They tried to hide the case from the public, but rumors of Aisha's curse quickly spread throughout Malaysia. Some of Aisha's posthumous photographs were stolen and leaked online. It is said that anyone who looks at these pictures will encounter the ghost of Aisha in their dreams. The image of Aisha's corpse will follow you wherever you try to hide. To avoid Aisha's curse, don't look for pictures of her online. If you happen upon a photo of her, don't make eye contact with her. Do not send these photos to anyone. Otherwise, it will mean certain death for you and your friends.
Thank you for your attention. Subscribe to the channel.